about home. They're married to real estate.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast for people who love real estate and want to become inspired and informed. Whether you are a newbie real estate agent looking to get tips and learn a thing or two, or maybe you are a savvy property owner who wants to get a jump on the market, this is the place for you. We discuss our passion for real estate and people. We bring together our personal experiences as well as our guests to learn from each other. You'll hear from experts in sales coaching, real estate law, mortgage lending, investing, and many local business owners on how to grow your business or your investment in real estate. I'm Mary Forrester.
I'm Mary McCauley.
And we are
Married to Real Estate.
We are blessed by having a really special guest today, Jess Arsenault, but we're at a loss because Mary McCauley couldn't be here today. And as you know, Mary Elliott has stepped out for a while. So this is my very first doing the podcast by myself, and I'm really looking forward to having a whole lot of fun. It's July, people are on vacation, but we're here with Jess Arsenault. And Jessica is the owner, director of Granite Willow, and it's a home care agency in Westford. But she's a whole lot more than that. I got to meet Jess recently. She's our most recent member of Westford Rotary. But she's an awesome networker, a real believer in networking and connecting with others. Business owner, networker, a doula, and which blows me away as I'm about to turn 73, that there'd be a doula to help you die. And what a wonderful, wonderful service that could be. She is a proud pet owner of 3 Bernedoodles. Oh, I can't wait to see pictures. I really can't wait. So we'll have to work that out as well. And a mother, and probably so much more. But those are just a few of the many roles I've heard from you, Jess. Am I covering most of them?
You are, yes, and thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here for your first solo broadcast.
Yes, and you're a lifelong resident of Westford?
Mostly. I moved when I was too young to really remember.
Yeah.
But yes, I've been here all along.
Yeah.
We love it here. I actually live right across the street.
Isn't that amazing? So I said, so do you know where WestfordCAT is? She says, yes, I can walk to it. It's right across the street. I said, that's not just really, really, really awesome. So Jess, Granite Willow. I don't know much about home care agencies, except I know that people very much want to stay in their home as much as they possibly can. In a former life, I worked at AARP for 24 years in Washington. In the first 10 of those years, I was a research librarian. So I heard a whole lot. I saw a lot of data, saw a lot of research in those days. It was a while back ago. And on just kind of the importance of staying home, our culture. It's our culture, right? To stay in our home. I'm not going in any nursing. And of course, nursing homes were regarded as kind of, the end of life, the end of life, and very unpleasant. So how did you get into home care? And when did you start Granite Willow?
So actually, my first career in life was a realtor.
Really? Oh.
Yes. But as my children aged into school, it didn't fit with my lifestyle, so I explored a few other careers. I actually managed some Aspen dental offices, and that was my first probably touch point into patient care and person-centered care. I enjoyed that, but it wasn't quite the right fit for me. For a few years, I owned a home daycare.
Wow.
And really enjoyed that. But I was at a point in my life where I needed to find something with more flexibility. And my girlfriend owned Comfort Care Home Care at the time. And she said, Jess, come work for me. Be a caregiver. And I was like, I have no idea how to do that. And she was like, of course you do. You've helped take care of your senior relatives. You've raised your own children, and we can teach you. I wasn't quite ready to make the leap, so I ended up, I wanted some more education, so I went and I became a CNA and a certified home health aide. And then I started working for Jen at Comfort Care as a caregiver. I also worked for another large agency And through that agency, I explored hospice care. And it just really spoke to me. It felt then and still does like such an honor to be there and help make that experience and that transition as positive as can be and as peaceful as possible. Over time, I ended up shifting from the caregiver role into a management role at my girlfriend's agency. And I really enjoyed that. I spent about 7 years working for a franchise and learning kind of the corporate ways. And then in 2020, I decided I wanted to open an independent agency and take all the good I had learned from the corporate way, and sprinkle in some different aspects and some things that I thought, could be done a little differently for improvement. And that's where Granite Willow was born.
And why Granite Willow? Why that name?
So it's not so self-explanatory. From the personal side of it, I was very connected to my parents, and I wanted to honor them. They're both deceased. And my mother was a very kind of peaceful, comforting influence.
Wow.
And she loved willow trees. It was both of our favorite tree. So willow was kind of a nod to her, and my dad was always my rock and
I love it.
my source of strength.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to have that image also for home care. The strength of granite with the comfort and shade of a willow tree.
Wow, terrific! So many thoughts are going through my head right now. I spent a lot of time in a corporate environment, and there are many pluses to that, but I think the beauty of it is to take what you learned there and put it into your own world, and to know that while we often feel like we're at the mercy or the consequence of corporate decisions and things like that, we can take that learning and carry it to something that we own. And I really applaud that. I see that as a real natural kind of step to make as a business person. So now you are a business owner in Westford. Wow. How's it going?
It's going great. We kicked off at the height of COVID.
Yeah.
So that was almost like a runaway train on the business side. Thankfully, we're past that. And I had some time to kind of slow down and, again, guide the business in more of the direction I wanted. I took some time and became a, as you know, end-of-life doula.
Right.
Also a certified senior advisor and a certified dementia practitioner.
Wow.
We're big on not just supporting the senior, but also supporting their family.
Awesome.
And home care isn't necessarily the right choice for everyone. So I want to make sure that I'm knowledgeable on all of the options and that I can help people make transitions out of the home if that's appropriate as well.
And I notice you're a terrific networker. I mean, I think it might be part of just who you are. Is that right? Are you naturally kind of connecting people?
I don't think of myself that way. I'm not the most comfortable public speaker, but I do love making one-to-one and personal connections with people.
And what an asset to have for business. Real asset to have. And you joined Rotary, and you've made an imprint already in just our Rotary meetings and as a can-do person and a caring person. And we can't wait to hear from you, when you're ready to speak to our club as well. I'm
so happy to have joined. What a great organization and everything that they do. Just amazing.
Good. That's really good. Well, I love to network. I think I was born I think it's in the DNA. And people look at me and think, you connected whom to whom? And only once did somebody really yell at me and say, leave me alone, I can make my own friends. It made a big impression on me, so I tried to be really mindful of that now. But in business and in personal life, you referred me to an acupuncture specialist. I started seeing her. And so I'm hopefully on the path of some kind of healing. I believe I am. And I would have never heard of this person because her business isn't promoted quite enough.
No.
And so I just can't. It gives me great joy and pleasure, and I think it does to you as well. It really does. Yeah. So you've been active in BNI, yeah, and I know that's a big commitment of time, et cetera. And but as a realtor, let me tell you, BNIs are exclusive because there's one realtor, and there are 800 behind them in line waiting to get into a BNI. So I think the only way we got in was basically if we started one, and that was it.
Yes, probably why there's so many chapters.
Yes, so many chapters. Hey, tell me a little bit your perspective. You were a realtor. Your perspective about kind of the housing shortage right now, how you see it around your client base, people wanting to stay in their homes, it being probably the most significant asset that they have. There's probably a list of 10 people that are standing at the door saying, when is this person going to move out of here that I can buy this house? And that's obviously from a personal perspective. But do you see that issue kind of showing up in people's decisions about staying in home care or going in institutions or 55 and over communities?
Well, I don't know if it's so much impacting their decision to want to stay home, but it's certainly helping them stay home because their home values are much higher than they were even a few years ago.
Right.
So many people are able to take reverse mortgages and
are you seeing
stay
them
in the home. Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Because I know they got a kind of a bad rep for a while, reverse mortgages, but your sense is that people are satisfied with them now?
I've had people be able to stay at home through end of life that otherwise, their resources would have been depleted and they would have had to have gone into an assisted living or a skilled nursing facility. Mm-hmm. And when the desire is to stay at home, it's an amazing tool to have that reverse mortgage so that they can utilize the assets that they've worked so hard for their whole life.
Right, exactly. And we are blessed that for sellers right now, the property values are so high. Mm-hmm. They are blessed. We are blessed as homeowners. They are blessed as people wanting to stay in their homes. But that is quite an asset that's there. Okay, I guess I'll go look for houses in someplace else for people.
Well, my son and his wife are on the other end of the spectrum.
Oh, they're
looking
buyers.
to be first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
And it's just a nightmare.
Still is, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Affordability, high interest rates right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing. Well, I know it's hard, and I know realtors are having a hard time with buyers because the disappointment is so intense, so intense. Yeah, and they are looking this area. Are they looking in Westford?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And crazy the difference. I think back to when I was doing real estate, selling real estate 20 plus years ago. Oh, I'm aging myself. And a first-time home buyer was buying homes in this area for less than $200,000, and now your entry is $450 for a fixer-upper, and then much higher for move-in ready.
Right. I was talking to somebody recently. Actually, I run into two women recently. Funniest thing, I was in Washington, D.C., standing outside at the airport waiting for my ride. And this is a woman sitting there on the bench. And we're waiting 45 minutes for our respective rides. So finally, I turned to her and I said, I guess our drivers, our friends are late today. And she explained, and she said, so where are you from? I said, I'm from Chelmsford. And she said, oh, I'm from Westford. Are you from Westford? And we've just been standing next to each other. And so her point was, I said, so what do you do? And she explained it, and I told her what I did. And so I said, well, if you ever need a realtor, I have a bunch of people who are really awesome in that area. And she said, oh, yeah, next year I'm going to need a realtor. And so it's like you get a little inkling in it. Oh, somebody's going to be selling their house, and then the realtors are just desperate to get on top of you.
Probably want to keep that quiet right now.
Yeah. I took her name down. We'll wait a year and then talk to her next year or for next year. So what does Jess Arsenault do for fun?
Well, I work a lot.
As an owner? Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, we're a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week business, and when somebody needs us, it's not optional. They need us. So, absolutely, at this point in my life, my foremost responsibility and time commitment is Granite Willow, and I enjoy that. So, in some sense, that is fun for me. I love all the creative parts of owning a business.
Yes.
And I love helping people. But when I'm not working, I love being with my family. I love the simple things in life. Last night before the storm, it was just so peaceful and beautiful outside. I was very happy to go sit and watch the sun drop and, sit by the pool and read for a bit. Nice. Of course, my 3 Bernedoodles were there with me.
I can't wait to see them.
Yeah. We had a little sanity break a few years ago and got 3 at once, all from the same litter.
Yes.
It's been quite the adventure.
And they're big. Are they big?
They are, yeah. The smallest one is about 65 pounds, and the biggest is about 100.
Same coloring?
No, they look very different. It's really interesting. Different sizes and different looks. But
I went to my favorite coffee place, which is in Lunenburg. That's where I get my beans, right? And there was this white van next to me, and looking out at me is this dog. And it was handsome. You could tell he was a doodle, but I couldn't figure out what he was. So I walked around the car and knocked on the window, and I said, "What is your dog?" He said, "It's a Bernedoodle." He was gorgeous. I just could have taken him.
I love all dogs, but especially the doodle. Sloppy, silly, just really pretty big eyes. I love the look.
Except when they go to the groomer, and then
I groom them myself.
You groom them.
I do. Fun fact.
What's your address now? We'll be over. We have a.
Yeah, if you come in my garage, I have a whole grooming table, blow dryers, you name it. It was I'm a DIY person. That's my other hobby.
You are amazing.
So one day every other week, we spend almost a full day grooming and
my goodness
and crafting. I love DIY stuff.
Wow. And your husband can't do anything, is that right? Usually opposites attract.
You know what? He's a plumber.
Oh, he's a plumber.
Yeah,
okay.
So he's a foreman on very large construction sites. So he's doing
all day
and
long.
working hard all day. When he comes home, he's very happy, like me, to enjoy the quiet downtime.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Well, we had 16, no, it was longer than that. When our daughter was 5, she'd been under the microscope so much in our family, and have some water if you need some water. So she was 5. We adopted her late in life, and she was under our microscope. Both of us looking at her at the same time, and figuring out what is going on. So we decided to get a dog when she was 5. We knew we wanted a cockapoo. And we went to go to a breeder, and because we looked around for rescues, and there really weren't any, and we wanted to make sure it was a fairly small but doodle-like thing because we didn't know about allergies. And so we went over to Maryland. We lived in Virginia. We went over to Maryland, and this woman had a litter of 6 girls and 2 boys. And so we went and picked Lady out. And so, but we saw this cute little one. This little one was asleep. He was kind of running in his sleep. And my daughter said, "Mom, can we get 2?" So we got Lady and Tramp.
Oh, I love that.
We took Lady and Tramp home. We hid Tramp until, we introduced Lady to my husband. And then we opened the door to the little carryall, and Tramp came out.
Surprise!
We had 16 years.
Oh.
So when you said you had triplets, I thought, oh, that was so fun.
Oh, it's fun. It really is fun having sibling fur babies.
My goodness. Well, what I'm hearing from you is just a lot of important values, values of just around the name of your business, the caring, the strength, the rock, the kind of, simple pleasures in life. And and just really a commitment to caring for people. That is amazing, Jess. That is just, it is a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to kind of get to know you, and I know we're going to have so much fun, so much fun.
Thank you.
And what I'd love to do is I'd love to, let me just see if I have some other fun questions. Oh, I guess I could talk to you about being a doula. But I had never really heard of doula.
Not many people have.
No, I know about, pregnancies and giving birth and having a doula then, but I know during COVID, what really struck and what really hurt a lot of people was that their loved one or anyone was dying alone. Is that your situation? Somebody who doesn't typically have family, or what? How do you connect with the dying and or their family?
So we do a lot of hospice support. So we'll partner up with hospice agencies, and they manage the care and they have the nursing oversight and medication, but we deliver the day-to-day care. So in my role as a doula with Granite Willow, I'm more focused on giving the appropriate training to my caregivers and making sure that they're implementing the right strategies. And then I also focus on supporting the families and helping them. And through that, I recognized that we really have a lot of gaps in our conversations with our loved ones that lead to unnecessary guilt and confusion and arguments at a loved one's end of life. We all talk about living our best life and we plan for our best lives, but it's kind of like that conversation ends when we get to the last chapter. And we really should be talking about living our best lives up to and through the end of life transition. And what does that look like? Because it's very unique for everyone. Many people, in my experience, have felt like they've had enough of a conversation because maybe they've talked with their spouse and said, hey, if I'm not going to have a good quality of life, if I'm going to be on equipment or whatnot, then that's not for me. I don't want that. So don't unnaturally sustain my life. But it's very rarely that, that type of a decision, black and white. And also, what does quality of life mean? It's so unique. For some people, I very often hear seniors say, if I'm stuck in a chair, if my life has gone to the point that I'm bedbound or in a chair, then that's not something I want. And we might talk about, okay, well, if that does happen, if it's not controllable, then what can we do to enrich your life during that time?
Good.
Other people might say, hey, I think that's a great quality of life for end of life. I've worked hard. I've been running this whole time. And at that point, I'll be very happy to, have downtime. And during that time, I want my family there. I want my dogs there. And I actually have created some tools to make all of that happen much more smoothly. And ideally, really any adult will implement and start using these tools for so many reasons. But I always, my probably most favorite reason is you don't want to wait until you're actually facing a chronic illness or an emergency to start having these conversations.
Right.
Because that's the time you really want to be having other conversations. So I have a 65-page workbook where you can kind of brain dump everything that's important in your life into this as a guide for your loved ones, should they need to step in and support you if you're unable. And also an advanced care plan booklet where we do define what is your vision of end of life.
Right.
What's important to you, what do you want, what don't you want. And then I have a flashcard set that I'll actually sit, and it has all these different wishes. I want to be at home. I don't want to be a financial burden. I don't want to be in pain. I want to be alert. And we lay them out in order of priority. And then from that, we start to say, well, these two might conflict. So how can we fix that? And we really build a solid bridge and plan for end of life. So it goes the way you want. And
What a great idea.
Yeah.
Because as we get older, we're more visual, right? And so cost too much pain, whatever the
Right.
those thoughts are. So what a great idea.
Yeah. And it's really meaningful for the family later, because I've attended many deaths, and I've seen families struggle with guilt that they shouldn't be struggling with. That, and I've said, well, what were the conversations that you did have with Dad before the dementia, became advanced or whatnot? And they can recall and say, well, he didn't want to be like this, but they're still struggling with the decision to have switched to hospice care
Right.
instead of trying to sustain life.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen family members not even be able to be there at the end because they're struggling so much with guilt and other issues.
Oftentimes, I think they don't even know what those issues are. I watched a young man. He was my first ballroom dance instructor, and his mom was dying second time around with cancer, and he couldn't go to the hospital. He just couldn't go in, and he suffered a lot from that. I was my assumption he did. It bothered him a great deal. So much so that when I had cancer this past year, it was totally understandable that some people just can't even be around the word, even though it's so much, it's an easier life now with cancer than it was certainly 5 years ago even. But yeah, I see that. Have you helped children, or is it largely an older population? Yeah.
I don't have the mindset that I could. And people ask me all the time, how do you deal with the death, and how can you do hospice?
Yes.
Isn't it depressing? I find it to be very fulfilling, not depressing. Of course, there's always some sadness, and when I lose a client that I've been supporting for 7 years,
right.
My heart bleeds.
Right.
But I find it still an honor to have helped them. I could never do it with children, though.
Yeah. I recently went to visit my brother-in-law in the hospital, and he was at the very end. And the hospital, for some reason, allowed him to stay until his death. And it was an honor. I didn't have much of a relationship with this man. My sister is long dead. And yet, just when you said that earlier, I thought it is an honor to be with somebody as they transition, as they, quote, pass, as we say. And my sister, too, when she died, the hospice arrived the day before she died, and she kept saying to me, Mary, I don't want to be in pain. I don't really want to be in pain. And she was in pain, so we had to kind of work around that. But she died within 48 hours, so it was a very quick end to her life. But
loved ones being there
yeah.
eases the pain.
Oh,
too.
yes.
So there really is such meaning in being there for them.
Yeah. And have you noticed that some people have a lot of death around them, and like they're close? Some people just have so many people in their lives who die. Yet I've had very few, very, very few in my life. I was curious about that.
I have quite a lot.
In your own family?
Yes. So maybe that
Yeah.
contributes to me wanting to help other families with it.
I love it. Yeah.
But my mom was only 64 when she passed, and I was very blessed to have another mother and her baby sister, who was my godmother, and she passed when she was in her 40s, and many aunts and uncles, my father, my grandparents are all gone, 2 brothers.
Wow,
so
you've had a lot.
Yeah, and I carry each of those with me into every experience with other families, and especially early on, there were things that I look back at some of the deaths and I say, gee, we could have done that better.
Right.
So I make sure we do it better
Awesome.
with the future.
Awesome. So let's just take a few minutes and talk about dementia. I think most of my friends, and even though many of them came from AARP as I did, and we certainly were around the issues of aging quite a bit, no matter what our specialty, no matter what area of expertise we had. It's scary, the idea that you lose control over your mind. And personally, that would be the one issue that I would say, and I have said to my husband, Carl, if my body survives my mind, let me go. Just let me go. Figure out a death with dignity place or something, let me go.
Right.
And, but is it as prevalent as we probably fear?
That's a little bit of a loaded question, in my opinion, and I'll preface everything by saying I'm not a doctor,
right.
So this is experience and
exposure.
Exposure. I think it is very prevalent in milder forms, and how it affects many people that, especially 80s and 90s, that may not have a major diagnosis. That often when people like yourself say that they're scared of that, they're thinking about dementias such as Alzheimer's or Lewy body, where it just ravages you very quickly, and often on the younger side. That's not as prevalent. And the great news is there's all kinds of new research and
drugs.
Breakthroughs happening all the time, because the thought used to be that dementia was very much just a disease of the brain, and that was where the cause was, and maybe DNA more recently has come out. But now connections are being made to things such as metabolism and hearing loss, multiple concussions, traumatic brain injury. So the more we learn about the different things that influence somebody's potential for developing dementia, the more targeted medications and treatments they'll be able to come out with.
Excellent.
And it's, again, when people say they're afraid, you're thinking of that worst case scenario. However, I can say, from experience with our clients, that with the proper care, yes, you're not the same person who you are sitting here right now, but you can still be a happy and influential person in your loved ones' lives. It's really a matter of your caregivers, whether they're professional or family caregivers, having the right education and taking the right approaches to care. And that's another big belief of mine is family caregiver education. So anytime there is somebody who's supporting a loved one, they don't need to enlist our services. I'm very happy to have them come in and say, hey, Jess, I can't get Dad to shower. Do you have some tips for me? And we can sit down and talk about it. We have all kinds of caregiver resource sheets that we've developed that give, kind of bullet point, this is how you do this and that. We have a skills lab in the office. I'm happy to practice skills with family members.
Wonderful.
And we also host the virtual dementia tour, which is a really unique and amazing experience. It's 8 minutes of having your senses altered. We put, glasses, headphones, shoe inserts, gloves. We really alter all your senses, and then you spend 8 minutes in a room that we've created for the tour, experiencing the feelings and confusion that someone with dementia may have and the physical symptoms. After doing that, you come out and we talk about what you felt, how we could have helped you in that time. So we deliberately do not provide care and assistance while you're kind of struggling through that. And that's so important because providing care to anyone, whether they have dementia or not, at the heart of it is empathy, tangible ways of delivering empathy.
Right.
So when we do that tour and you're able to really understand what it feels like to have dementia, then your empathy increases.
Right.
And now we can build on the skills to be a better caregiver.
Rather than the frustration. So much frustration.
Yes.
Dad won't take a shower. He smells like X, and yes, exactly.
So we go
Yes.
through all of that, and
Awesome.
how we can avoid triggers, and then if there is agitation or whatnot, how we can calm that down. All of our caregivers on the team participate in all of this special training, but it's also available to any local families at no charge.
Wonderful. Tell me, speaking of no charge, what does home care cost?
A lot.
Lots, yeah.
To be
Yeah,
frank,
right.
it's definitely a serious problem that we're facing as a country.
Right.
Because for the first time, I think in history, I apologize, I don't know the exact year, but we have more seniors over age 65 than we have children under 5.
Right.
That math doesn't work for one-to-one care as we continue aging. So the need for more assisted livings, more adult daycare, and absolutely more family and professional caregivers is tremendous.
Right.
The demand outweighing the supply, of course, is having a significant impact on the cost of care.
Of course it is. If you're trying to attract qualified employees and have good business, not only qualified employees, excellent employees.
Exceptional.
Then you're having to pay them and probably, what they deserve if they don't deserve more.
They absolutely deserve more. Yeah.
Because that whole care thing, whether it's child care or care of the elderly, it's just not in our culture yet.
Right. So part of being independent rather than a corporate franchise is I'm not sending revenue off to a corporation. Therefore, we do pay our care team quite a bit higher than most agencies
Wonderful.
in the area, which gives us the benefit of attracting the best caregivers.
Excellent.
And we also extend savings to our clients. We don't charge quite as much. But generally speaking, from Westford, you're looking anywhere from like 35 to 40 plus an hour. And if you go closer to Boston, you can be looking at rates of 65 or more an hour.
Wow. Amazing.
So definitely smart to plan ahead. Think about getting long-term care insurance and figuring the cost of home care or other care options into your long-term financial plans.
I remember when long-term care insurance started, we were certainly aware of it at ARP, and the policy people weren't really certain that the policies available were going to be sufficient enough. I have a dear friend who bought a Cadillac version right when it came out, and she's in her middle 70s. And she is just bought a condo. She's ready to be cared for at her home when the need arises, should the need arise, and when it arises.
Very smart.
Very smart. She just discovered this, and it gave her great relief as a single person.
Yeah, a lot of people have, depending on when they purchased their life insurance, they may have riders on their life insurance that they're not even aware of.
Wonderful.
Or they may have bought a policy and forgot, because they probably bought it at the time that they got their life insurance.
Right. Oh, that's a good thing. People
Yes,
should check.
So worth checking.
Worth checking. Just thank you so much. And if Mary were here with Mary,
Thank you for
and
having
it
me.
is so wonderful, really, really
very
wonderful.
nice.
I usually try to kind of keep things light. Today wasn't really a light discussion, but
No.
maybe next time we'll have a lighter discussion. The dementia lab.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that would be
That'd be
really
great.
kind of loaded for them and for us, and fun. Let's think about doing something like that.
Definitely. I
And
look forward to it.
thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you.
And your attitude. And thank you to your mom and your dad, who really instilled these really amazing values. And you get to spread it around now.
I do. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jess.
Mary, Mary, and Mary, so extraordinary. Well, now they're talking about houses, they're talking about homes.